straight out. Perfect. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the dinner table. OMG, I feel like I have a celebrity at my dinner table today. I'm so glad to have my friend Cheryl Votzmeyer Rios.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
so glad to have you here. And also, happy birthday.
Thank you.
When was your actual birthday?
The 19th.
So, okay.
Just last Wednesday.
Are you a Cancer?
Yes.
You guys are very like strong and protective and but sensitive also, and you know how to handle that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed our conversation because I feel like a lot of the things you were telling me were just like things I needed to hear.
Yeah.
So I'm
It's
really
funny how
grateful
that can happen, right?
Mhm.
Especially over
Yeah.
food.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. It always happens that way. It's a synchronicity. It's like God brings you the people that you need the most, you know, on the days that you need them the most, you know, because actually we were supposed to record it in a week or so, and we ended up recording today. And so I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Did you tell me you went on some birthday adventures? What all did you do?
Every day is an adventure. In
I
the life
see that.
of Cheryl.
Yeah.
So, I went to Kansas City, and so I had a conference to go to for the League of Historic American Theaters to kind of like professional development, to learn more about like historic theaters, restoration, rehabilitation, and really to get to know people that have been through the same experience that I'm about to go through. And so it was really good.
So she's the executive director and of basically the remodeling project of the Ritz Theater in downtown Corpus Christi.
Yes. So Cece Patch is in charge of the rehabilitation of the Ritz Theater downtown. And so I came on board last November. I'm the first paid employee. And so they've been working on this project for quite some time and needed someone to really kind of be full-time to kind of lead that ship. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, when you told me you were doing that, I was like, oh, that's a really good decision. That's that woman will push that stuff through and make it happen.
It's exciting.
And you have a good vibe about you. Like, so you and I met with Grow Local South Texas as you were the education director at the K-Space Art Center.
Yes, K-Space Contemporary.
Yeah.
And their contemporary art gallery downtown. Well, everybody knew them as just a gallery, but they're a nonprofit. So one of their components is arts education. And so when I came on board, they wanted me to expand just the little projects that they had, summer camp. So I jumped right into a summer camp with crazy kids.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And then each year kind of grew off that, partnering with the city, partnering with the shelter, partnering with Central Library, senior centers around town, Grow Local South Texas.
Yes, and totally help the murals get painted on. So if you live in the region, in the local region, and you drive over to, it's now called the Keepers of the Garden. Tevin Gray is the one that runs it, but it's still got the murals up on the shed and on the fences, and everything has got the beautiful rainbow colors.
It was so much fun.
There's actually a picture of me, like painted, a fairy version of me painted on the side of one of those walls. So
good.
Yes, I think it's kind of fun. I love it. I have been a part of the revitalization of creative efforts in downtown Corpus Christi since like 2001. Back when there was, I'm trying to remember what the name of the group is. There was a group, and Monica McLeod Sawyer, who is the president of the board. Yeah. So her and I were in that group all the way back to that. I think we probably didn't know each other super well, but like met each other at an event. And so there was that stuff that happened, the Dia de los Muertos event that we actually, the group that did Water Street Village and had the creative culture, whatever. And I was a student. I was a mom, but so I was a little bit older, but I was a student at the university studying, and was studying graphic design and all the things that I studied for my public relations degree. I was their intern. And so I had a whole project that went towards like one of the first downtown Dia de los Muertos events that happened down there. And so I can pull out like from my portfolio of projects that I did in downtown Corpus Christi, like the program for the very first Dia de los Muertos that was even before K-Space like took on that big project and turned it into this like amazing,
That's
you
awesome.
know. And so the amount of efforts of people doing things in downtown Corpus Christi in order to revitalize and also, you know, create creative spaces for a community that didn't feel like it had a home for creativity. And Water Street Village was the one little hippie spot.
Yeah.
We talked about it. I think it was last week we talked about it because the Lotus Cup was there, and that was before the Tango Tea Room that, became a little bit more known in the community. But that was like the only little hippie village in town. And so when I came home from College Station, I was at the university. That's where I met my ex-husband. And then my son was like 2 years old. I think he turned 2 the year that we came back home, so that my parents could help us out a little bit. And he got a job teaching, his first job teaching. And you don't make any money when you're a teacher. You actually work for free for the first year of your life, which is so insane. How does that even make sense? And we were a family with a kid, and the husband had to work, but he couldn't make any money. So it was just kind of like that strange time in our life. But I went to school at Del Mar, and then I would go and hang out at the Lotus Cup and, started kind of infiltrating that creative little vibe. And I always say, so, they tore down that building down there.
Yeah. It was sad when I saw it come down.
Yeah. It was that there was always a yin yang thing that went on over there. It was very dark sometimes. There was actually some really dark things that happened there, but it was also this creative epicenter where a lot of people that helped to really anchor in the creativity in downtown came from there. The downtown farmers market started there.
I didn't know that.
The very first ones.
Yes, I did know that.
The first
and then
year.
It moved over to the art center.
Yep.
Yeah. I enjoyed going over there.
Yeah. And that was the thing, was that it was this little interesting little epicenter that birthed creative, things.
The drum circles.
Love
that.
Yeah. Do you remember when there was they had there's an apartment complex that stands right above?
Next to it.
Yeah. And they didn't like our drum circles. And so we literally went to court, and I had the drum for a while that they played in court. I actually had it at my home. And so those are just good memories. And so when that building came down, I was like, gosh, I wasn't of the there was a lot of people who are like, oh, tearing down, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, things have to change. And the fact of the matter is that building hadn't been, that structure had not been taken care of for 15 years. And that's the reason why the farmers market left there, is because it could, we couldn't stay there because it didn't fit, And so it's not that I necessarily want to, tear down Paradise and turn it into a parking lot, which is apparently what's happening. It's becoming a parking lot.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that there's got to be some other kind of I don't know, energetic epicenter. So creativity is going to come out of that regardless of whether it's a parking lot or whether there's actually a little drum circle thing happening down there.
Yeah.
And there's got to be, I can't imagine that there won't be some kind of interesting reunions of some kind that'll end up happening. And then of course the Greek Orthodox Church does some really cool and interesting things down there too.
Do. Yes.
So I'm grateful.
Their festivals are great.
Yeah.
They're so fun.
Well, do you know what month of the year that is? I can't think of it.
November, I think.
Yeah.
Right around November, because then you have the Jewish food fest. You got the Greek food fest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. It's good. I'm very grateful to be a part of the downtown anchors.
Yes.
I actually used to go for Grow Local South Texas. I would go and speak at conferences quite a bit. I got asked to speak at a lot of different things about how a farmer's market has the ability to be the anchor for revitalization, downtown revitalization and stuff like that. And I was like, that is why we started the downtown farmers market. That's why.
Because it's thriving.
We needed it. We needed something that would continually keep bringing people to the downtown area, even if it was just this tiny little thing, but just be a part of that downtown and then of course everything has changed down there, and the murals are amazing and the art centers are amazing and everybody's doing such great stuff. And so I'm thankful to the people that have been involved in that. And now if we get the Ritz, when we get the Ritz underway, you'll have that big stuff going on. So
yeah, it's exciting. I love collaborating with the leadership in downtown and just hearing everybody's vision, and everybody wants something great to happen downtown. And even during COVID, we just kept going. I'm on the board of directors for the downtown management district. We never stopped planning and moving forward, even though, businesses were struggling and we were trying to make it all happen. And, that was such a weird time, I think, in the whole world's lives, what is happening and why. But in Corpus, everything came later for us, with numbers rising, people getting ill, people shutting down. We didn't experience it like the rest of the United States. And I think probably because we're a coastal town, we're out being able to be outside a lot and not have to be inside. And we don't have extreme weather. So those numbers that
we're not all on top of each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was just a really strange time to be alive during that pandemic. I never even knew that we could have something like that. I've heard of things like that, but not to live through it, and then to come out on the other side and see that our downtown is still thriving. People are moving to Corpus Christi because it's a beautiful destination, and industry's coming. So of course that's going to bring more people. But downtown, when the Ritz opens up, it's going to activate so much at that end of downtown. We have so many great plans for the theater. We're going to do everything: theater, music. We have the ballet approaching us to do performance. We've got the symphony wanting to do maybe chamber music. We're going to do independent films. Of course, we're nonprofit, so we're going to have arts education with music, theater, dance. So we're just excited about the potential.
I was over there for the I think it was called, y'all called it like Love for the...
Oh, the Love Offering.
Yes. Yeah. And I loved that. Like, I just thought, what a great idea. And then, people to get up there and just sing and just be in the space. It was such a great idea. I'm glad that you guys did that.
Yeah. Monica came up with the idea and I was just like, let's do that. It's such a good vibe. And we're only wanting people to come and talk about, the great things and the great experiences they had if they'd had them in the past, and create more great experiences for people to come and just have open mic. Just sign up if you want to, I don't know, read poetry or sing or contemporary dance, whatever it was. We had everything up on that stage that night. It was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I had a great time. So I'm grateful to be a part of that. And I'm grateful to know you. And I'm grateful for the work that we've done together and had the creative interests that we've had together. And you have a great interest in all different kinds of delicious foods. I know we're going to talk more about travel in a little bit, but I love listening to you and Adam talk about some of y'all's travels and all the delicious foods you ate when you're in Slovenia. Slovenia.
Yes.
Where is Slovenia at?
Slovenia is Eastern Europe. So it's at the top of the boot of Italy, under Austria, above Croatia, to the left of Hungary. It's tiny.
So very well.
It's a little bitty country. Like you could get across it probably in 5 hours.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite foods downtown, speaking of which?
Oh,
like,
downtown?
Where do you like to go?
Oh my gosh. Well, I like Executive Surf Club. Of course,
yeah,
the Johnny
everybody
Cho's
likes.
nachos.
Yes.
Johnny Cho's. Yeah, I can always, have that. I like the new kitchen over at Bus, which is delicious. They've got great little like seared black tuna tostadas. They've got crawfish on brioche and all sorts of things.
Well, I haven't ventured out to eat out a whole lot because I've been doing this, 120-day fast, which I'm way past 120 days, and I've been reintroducing things, but I hadn't been really going out to restaurants because I'm just so paranoid about the types of oils they use and the things that will actually make me sick. And so last night, I went to eat hibachi with a friend, and I just kind of forget, like, okay, we're going to get a sushi roll, right? And we read and usually I'm like, I don't really eat sushi rolls because they almost always have stuff in them that I can't eat. But it was clear that he was like, he's like, I'm interested in a sushi roll. And so I was like, okay, and we found one and we looked at the ingredients on it. We're like, okay, that'll be fine. And so then when it gets to the table, I take the first bite of it, and the sweet chili sauce has totally got a ton of sugar in it. So I know that's one thing. Yep. And then it had some crawfish in it that had to have been like tossed up in some kind of mayonnaise sauce or something like that. So I'm like, oh no. Okay, I'm eating. So I ate a few bites of it, and then and the thing was that we had just gone to the movies, right? And I hadn't eaten popcorn. It's probably been 6 months since I've eaten popcorn. And everybody on the podcast knows that popcorn was like, I was living on popcorn and chocolate when I finally had to take control of my diet because that was like the only thing I could eat. And honestly, it was probably the thing that was making me the most sick, was because I was only eating popcorn and chocolate. Right. But I felt like it was the only thing I could eat. And so everything else seemed to make me sick. And so I had just decided to eat popcorn at the movie theater. Well, we go up to ask, and he's great. He goes, what kind of oils do y'all use? And I'm like, that's pretty brave to ask that question, and at a movie theater where they're like, everybody there's like, I don't know. So finally this, the manager comes out, and she's like, oh, it's actually coconut oil. And I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I eat popcorn, right? But I didn't eat very much because almost immediately it had made me start feeling a little bit like heartburny. And we were watching Oppenheimer. Have you seen Oppenheimer yet?
Not yet, but I went to.
It is so good.
Yeah.
It is so good. I won't share anything, right? The only thing I would say is that it's really long. So get in the most comfortable movie theater with the best seats, so that it's like 3 hours long, and it's really intense. So it's, but it's excellent. I enjoyed it so much. It hit like every one of my like spheres of interest. So we're there. I'm nibbling on this popcorn, and then after a while, or after we get out of the movies, he's like, you know what? I bet it wasn't coconut oil. I bet it was palm oil. And I was like, well, that makes sense because I have heartburn already. So I had just had that popcorn, and now I'm eating this sushi roll that I'm like, right? So then I'm like, okay, but hibachi is, steak and shrimp and rice, which I had introduced rice. So I'm okay with that. And then I'm like, giant slabs of butter. I hadn't done butter, even though I've done some cheese, so I've done a little bit of dairy. So it was like, and then soy sauce all over it, which soy sauce is a big deal still because it's not gluten-free. It has wheat in it. And so I was sitting there eating the hibachi, and I was just really nervous because I just haven't gone out there. And almost every time I go out to eat in the past, even during the time that I was on the like super break, I would just go eat like raw oysters and maybe like a salad or something. Yeah, it would make me sick. Almost every time it would make me sick. So I was a little bit paranoid, but I did okay last night, actually.
That's good.
I was really impressed. The only thing that even really made me feel a little uncomfortable was actually the popcorn. So now I'll be like, oh, it's kind of sad because that's like my favorite thing is to go to the movie. I love popcorn in general, but to go to the movie theater and eat popcorn, I mean, that's like the serious stuff. So
yeah, I love popcorn. My mom's a popcorn fanatic, and so every night she has popcorn. So I know when I go home to visit my parents, I'll be having popcorn around 9:30 at night. It's like a bedtime snack.
Yeah,
makes me very happy.
Yeah, that was definitely my thing. Does she eat microwave popcorn, or she
actually
homemade?
Has this? She does it all the ways. So she'll do it in the pot with oil. Then she's microwaved the bags, which I don't really care for because they're not,
Yeah.
And then she's got this this pop-up thing you put into the microwave with a lid, and you put the popcorn in it, no oil, and it just pops. So I just like it always. But of course she does melt the butter, and she puts the salt on it. And so I'm like, I'm all about it.
I love pan popcorn with the butter and all the things. Yeah, so it's one of my favorites. So I'll have to figure that out. Maybe I can make my own popcorn at home using oil I can handle and see if it's the popcorn or the oil that is the problem. So you and I did another big like deal for me because I have been introducing the cheese now. I ran across or came into contact with a raw milk cheese that they have at the H-E-B.
It was good.
Yes, called Bunker Hill. And you can get it at H-E-B. And it got pointed out to me as this is something that might be better for you, right? It's kind of expensive, but not ridiculously expensive. You have to get it in like the specialty cheese section. And apparently Portland, I'm learning, has a network of people that are like me too, like serious about types of cheeses and organic foods and all that kind of, because the stock is rising, and when you ask for things, they get it for you.
Yes.
And so this cheese has become a thing, and now they're having to buy more of it. And so it started out apparently where it was just the cheddar, and then it was the cheddar and the smoked cheddar, and we actually had Gouda today too.
It was so good.
So because I've been eating cheese, I went and grabbed us a gluten-free pizza crust, and we made pizzas tonight.
It was so good. I love the crust.
It was good, right?
Yeah, and I like all the fresh vegetables, everything.
I love pizza. It's my favorite.
I can eat it all the time.
It's like if there's one thing that I have missed in any of this diet stuff, it's not the cheese, the pizza. The pizza. And I loved to used to go get a beer and a pizza, and like anywhere we would travel, it was always, okay, where can we find the brick oven homebrew beer, that's the place I want to go get at least one meal from, and then getting into this world.
Yeah, this was so good without the tomato sauce. Like I enjoy the oil that you put together, the basil and the garlic. It was really good. Yeah. And then all the vegetables.
So I took brand new fresh basil, and we just mixed it up in some oil with the garlic, and I used some of my Cuban oregano like seasoning. We put that down on the bottom of it. And then we put, eggplant. I had you cut up one of our eggplants,
tomato,
hot peppers,
red
peppers, or
bell peppers.
Yeah. Some arugula, some Swiss chard from the garden, and then a layer of the cheddar and Gouda cheese on top. And
it wasn't greasy either. The cheese wasn't real greasy. It was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I
Thank
did.
you. Yeah. And then made ourselves a nice little salad with the stuff from the farm, but also like our greens and then the red wine vinegar. And you got to drink the farm wine.
The farm wine was delicious.
You liked it?
I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's so you kept saying, what does it taste like? What did you come up with?
Like berries.
Yeah.
Like I'm tasting berries.
Blackberries is the blend.
It was a little tart but sweet. It was different. It's a different kind of wine. It's not like anything you'd get at the store.
Yeah. It's a farm wine, and also it doesn't have all the preservative things they put in it when they have to ship wine or get wine to ferment faster or whatever the things they use those different chemicals for wine. And so it's really clean. And it's a home brew, which we talked about last week on the podcast about making your own, because for 2 weeks in a row, I had people come on to talk about mead. And last week we talked about the beekeepers making their own mead. And so you've got people now that really can make their own brews of different kind. And so, me, I'm in the whole, like, when the world ends, are we going to have our own wine? Like,
now you know how to make it.
Exactly. I can make my, we've got wine, we've got mead, we've got, all of the things. So I'm enjoying that part of it. So that was a good meal. I'm excited and it was super simple, and was happy to be able to, mostly we could spend a lot of time talking because we were just like making pizzas,
Yeah.
and that was fun.
Well, that's the best part of getting together and making a meal and sitting and eating. You can just talk about everything. And it's funny because it won't even have one related topic. We can jump to one topic to another and like, oh, I have this to say. And we just kind of move forward with that.
Yeah, I think in one conversation, I jumped from like something about the dog, like then there was like a Me Too conversation, and then back to like something about like wine, or I don't even know, like these crazy, and the conversation went all over the place, which I love that. That's the little bit of like chasing the rabbit, that's what the podcast is about. That's the dinner table talks. That's the idea. It's like you come to a place where it's safe to talk and you talk to your friends. And on a podcast in a public scenario, you might not share all of the secrets, but you can share the general subject, and there's always interesting things. And having new people come out to the dinner table is always fun, because I never know exactly where it's going to end up going or what rabbit we're going to chase, but it's been surprising to me how different each person is and what they bring to the table. And I'm enjoying that. Of course, if anything comes up at the dinner table, then the things that you and I are like closest related to in our ongoing conversations is going to come up at the dinner table. And I was really grateful to have you, because I feel like you're a close friend. And that part of what I've been dealing with has been like probably the most challenging, is that when I finally get a chance to like meet up with a good friend that I haven't seen since kind of the process has started, then you kind of have to go through it all again, and I feel like I need to go through it all again because it's part of my processing. And my grief is very different than the grief you have recently dealt with, but it's grief. And I feel like that's a part of us coming together at the dinner table today that's been so helpful, hopefully to you, and also helpful to me too, is the idea of like how we each individually process the grief that we're dealing with.
I think everybody's different. I think there's no right way of, facing something that's been traumatic. And, that I lost my husband 3.5 years ago. And it was difficult. I felt like my life got hijacked. And so when that happens and you've got all these dreams and things that you want to do and your plans, we always say, don't make plans, but we make plans because that's what helps us look forward to the future. And so when all of a sudden you have to pivot and do something else with your life and figure out like what that next best move is. I mean, it's a challenge. And that's what I had dealt with Chuck. But, with travel, I was telling you on your adventure that you're about to take.
Yeah. So you guys remember that I'm about to be on this long road trip, solo car thing all across the country. So
I packed up with my dog and I took off, and I was, kind of 3 days before it was supposed to happen, I was ready to kind of bail and unpack my car. But my girlfriends were like, no, you need to do it. Go. It's all right. It's okay to be scared, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what's going to happen in our trips. We don't know. But I think for me, I've always been kind of adventurous. I left home when I was 18. I moved to New York City when I was 19 and then came back when I was 26 to Texas. And I've always had that just let's go and find out things. And so I wasn't really scared that I was going to be traveling by myself. It was more, I was going to be by myself, and taking my dog when for 20 something years, I'd been used to traveling with my husband.
Yeah.
And so, it was really an eye opener for me. I got to learn who I am and what my dreams were for me, and to really focus on just me, which I hadn't really done, which is a normal thing. You're married, you have kids, and you focus on your family unit. But that's not the case when your other half is gone. And so for me, and everybody's different with how they process, I decided to take off and go on however many days or months or whatever it was going to take to go. So I took off to West Texas and took a trip with my dog and ended up in Marfa, and then for a few days, and then went to Ruidosa and stayed there for a few days, and ended up in the desert of south of Santa Fe, and stayed there for about 3.5 weeks, and decided, nope, I don't want to go home yet.
Yeah.
So I went to Colorado, and I just went. I didn't have anything driving me back to be back home or anything, nothing important to do. And so I did that. And then I took about 10 days to get back to Texas, and I went and stayed with my mom and dad. And I would say I was gone for 2.5 months away from my place. And I got to know Cheryl.
Yeah.
And that was a scary thing, but exciting.
Yeah.
And to know that I'm okay. And whatever it has been that I've ever gone through, whether it was as a child or losing my husband, that life is going to be fine. And I'm not going to not move forward. I never say, we move on from things, but we move forward. I can't ever say I'm going to let that go. I grieve every day. If I think of him, I think of him. And, I talk to my children and I think of him. I see things, I smell things, I hear a song, I think of him. It's just a matter of the way I handle it. So,
I appreciated a couple of things. Like, one of them was that right away you said that 3 days before your trip, you were like ready to bail.
I was so scared.
And I was like, okay, there's so many reasons why you coming here today was such a big part of it for me. It like has to have been like a godsend thing, because I have that feeling like, oh my God. And I won't bail, because I'm one of those people that it's like, there's been some investment in me. And if there's been some investment in me, and I've told the world that I'm going, so I'm going to have to go. But I have this like sense inside of me that's like, you can't do this. This is like, this is too much. It's too scary. But I've also had, my mom says, since I was, like a kid, since I was like 13 or whatever, that I've always had this desire to be on the road. So there's a part of me that's spent my entire adult life like reaching for this moment of having this time. But then also the things that you talked about healing on the road. And I can't tell you the number of women actually that I've talked to that are like, this road trip is going to be so healing for you. And you can do anything you want to do. And you can pull off on the side of the road, and you can drink when you want to drink, or you can stop when you want to stop, and you can just, do what you want to do. And
that's what I did.
Yeah.
I just went, and I just kind of took things as they came each day. And during that time, it was COVID. So it was all self-check-in everywhere. So it was limited contact with people. So I did a lot of drawing. I sketched. I did a lot of sleeping. Did a lot of walking. That was part of the traveling. I did a lot of thinking. I did a lot of just like brain rehab, just really healing. That's what it was. And I can't even explain like the pivotal moment during that time where I felt like I was going to be okay, because there were days and days and days and days and days of crying and not sure, and the uncertainty, and then it'd be fine. And then all of a sudden it'd peek back in, that uncertainty and the fear. And I'm like, I have nothing to be afraid of, especially now. People, ask me like, how do you do the things you do? I'm like, because I'm not afraid to do it. I've been through hell. And I'm back. I came back from it. And, I keep myself, and I always have kept myself open to new experiences and like what life has to offer. And for instance, I'm remarried to someone really amazing. And I never expected that to happen. I just figured, number one, who's going to want to be with a widow?
Right.
There's a stigma to that.
Yeah. Who's going to want to be with a 44-year-old woman that's already been through two big breakups? That's my
see. And there's these things that creep in our head, right? I was like, people, you can see people's faces that appreciate, hey, she's being honest about it. Or you see people like, oh gosh, I don't have anything to do with that. It's a lot of information to take in for someone that's not walked through those shoes. And so I've got to appreciate that fact as well. But life has taken a really beautiful turn, and it was very unexpected. And I found someone I want to spend my life with. And so we decided to get married after 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
I, a lot of people thought, oh, it's too soon. I'm like, it's not too soon. It's the perfect
It's not too
timing,
soon for
actually.
me.
Right.
Yeah.
Not for me. It was
Yeah.
perfect timing. And,
I
you
think
know,
that's huge in us as women owning what's right for us. And really, I was telling you early at the table that I don't think I know how to say no. And I think that's going to be a huge part of my, and let's just be honest, my sexuality.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a huge part of, I was talking to you about, I remember you called me, right after I'd left Grow Local and moved to the farm and everything. And I used the word like I was a little bit aggressive and saying, no, I don't want to like participate in anything. But I think it's because I'm learning how to say no for the first time in my life.
Yes.
And it's been weird because I'm such a strong personality and I never saw myself as like a people pleaser but I definitely am one of those people that is trying to make all my people, my family and everybody just, like I don't want to cause any confrontation. I don't want there to be any whatever. And so I've allowed myself for things to happen or where I just didn't say no. And I think that there's an element of this freedom that I needed so badly to be able to say, I get to choose where I go, what direction I go, what's the next steps in my life. This is a big moment for me. And I'm hearing a lot of like positive things from prayer, from people that love me, from friends about, time to heal and do what you want and say no if you want and say yes if you want.
Yes.
And that you've got what's coming for you. You have no idea, but I just like people look at me. I wish I could see what other people see in me. Right? Because I hear the words people saying to me, of course, they look at me and they're like, we're so proud of you. And can you imagine the amazing things that you've done? And how can you not see what we see? And, and you're so capable. And here I'm over here like, please, would you just let me be a victim for a minute?
Yeah.
Like, I just want to cry and like, to quit telling me how awesome I am, which that's not what I want. I want to like begin to own myself. But I think that that's because there's a little bit of inauthenticity in the idea that I've said yes for so many years to things I really wanted to say no to. And now I'm like learning how to own that at this not final, but at this big stage and
but I think
the midlife crisis, I guess.
Maybe. I don't know what we would call it, but I think there's power in being able to understand that we have a choice with what we want to engage in, or being able to say yes or no, or, I've had to tell people with certain behaviors that they can't be around me anymore. And because, I don't need to be around it. I'm sorry that has to be like that, because I really enjoy to have a healthy relationship with someone, but sometimes it just doesn't work out like that. And then sometimes people have opinions. I don't need your opinion. I'm not asking for an opinion unless you hear me ask for an opinion. Yeah. So I think that's just something we learn from our experiences, figuring out who we are, what we're going to allow our life to do, and how it's going to morph into what it is that we're trying to make happen. Right.
I think one of the things I'm trying to process a little bit, and you might understand that, especially with having a background in like modeling and having that, is this public persona that people know you and they don't really know you, but they think they know you.
Yeah.
And then they're giving you their opinion about you, and you're like, I didn't really ask you for your opinion, but you're like, but they feel like an ownership because you put it out publicly that they have the right to give you their opinion about you.
Yes.
And I honestly believe that there's an element of a block or maybe a veil or a barrier or something to my success that has to do with my fear of what other people think about me, while I put everything out about myself, and I'm afraid of what the next thing is that's going to come at me. And it comes at me, this TikTok video go viral, and the TikTok video that go viral was me talking about shaving myself, and it's like wildly, ridiculously inappropriate joke, and it went viral. And then all these men were saying all of these like things. And it's like, you got to learn, Aislinn, this is like a learning opportunity for you to just be like, you make jokes and you're public and those people think they can say whatever they want to say. And like you said, you're like, I don't need your opinion. I don't really, it honestly doesn't even affect me. Just I'm doing what I want to do with myself.
Yes.
So
there's nothing wrong with that. I think that we don't have to have approval from others. I think that, number one, I'm old enough to make decisions about what I want to happen in my life. And, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. I don't need someone to be critic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
I'll
already
be
hard on myself
I was
enough.
going to say, I'm already my best critic. I've already told myself all of the things.
Yeah.
I've already told myself 10 times all of the things that you're telling me right now, by the way. I'm very capable of,
Right.
of criticizing myself or taking responsibility for my own bad behaviors, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that I'm excited. I'm nervous. I imagine that I don't have really any plans outside of Michigan with my friend Tommy. I have like places I'm staying because it's safe to make sure you have a place to like park your car. And I have certain friends that I'm going to be staying the night with along the road. But the only like tourism type thing that I have on my map is I'm stopping at Baker Creek Heirloom in Missouri because, I'm Aislinn and duh, I'm going to be driving along. So I'm going to stop there. But so I imagine that I'm going to do a lot of walking and, and just seeing and looking. And I can tell you that in 2019 was when that was when I retired from Grow Local. And I also was dealing with some health issues. And that road trip with my parents, which they're up in the front of the car chattering, and I'm not really involved in the conversation. I'm sitting in the back just looking out the window. And that was a big changing moment in my life when it's like I knew I had to make some big changes. My health was being weird. And then when I got home, that's when I started having major symptoms of thyroid issues. I left Grow Local. I knew that there was some things going on with my relationship that they didn't feel right and felt like there was probably change that I didn't want 3 years down the road, whatever, but I could feel it, and so I think that trip, just the sitting in the car and driving and looking at Kentucky and looking at Tennessee and looking at Indiana and looking at everything is a part of what helps me process things.
I think so too. I think, it probably was really great not having to drive, right?
Yes.
So you could just be a passenger and not worry about it. You're there.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to talk if you didn't want to talk.
Yeah.
You could engage if you didn't want to. But really, ultimately, I love being with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you did too on that trip
of course.
they let you be just in the back and they had their own little thing going on, but you're just there in the midst of it. I like that when I'm with my mom and dad. I can just be me and I can let all these personas down. Whoever it is that people think that they know Cheryl is not who I really am with my mom and dad. And I always I go home, I don't have makeup on. I might wait to take my shower till midday. I go out and hang out in the yard with my bare feet and, watch the chickens and do a bonfire. It's just whatever. And if I want to come in and have food, I just go in and I open up the refrigerator like it's a big buffet. And I just, and that's the fun. That's what I enjoyed about being with my mom and dad is that I'm allowed to have that, about that time. I just can have that time.
I can tell you that over the last, it's been more than 3 months. It's been more than since the breakup, but like even before that, I remember that when I was a kid, anytime I would get in trouble or somebody was mean to me at school or anything like that, I would always go and sit on the bed with my parents. And both of my parents would be in the room and I would be sitting on their bed, on their big old king size bed, crying and telling them things. And they would just be talking things out with me and they would be telling me what they thought about it. And I would be telling them what I thought about it. And that's what it's felt like over the last 6 to 8 months of my life. It's just and my parents were like, she needs help. She needs help. We can see the 13-year-old in her, just sitting on the bed crying and not well, and needing some advice and needing some guidance and some help with what's going on. And so, and that trip actually, they invited me to go with them on that trip because they knew how bad I needed it. And they know how I am about getting away. If I can get away, that was always the way I handled, and maybe you do too, how we handle the pressure of being leaders that create big, innovative things and sustain and maintain and take on projects that no one else would take on because they're destined for failure. I mean, Grow Local, the farmer's market, everybody's like,
is that really going to happen?
Exactly. Is that really going to happen? And the only way you can do that is by going away.
And decompressing.
Exactly. And I think that's a huge part of it. But I also have been really healthy when I go away I'm not one of those people that I'm on vacation and now I have to go home that's never how I feel about it. When it's time to come home, I'm ready to come home.
Yes.
I go to that place and I take in everything they have for me. And then I come home and I bring all that stuff with me, because I think that I think that part of my travel, I never think I do anything just for myself, ever. I think I do it for the universe. I think I do it for my community. Back years ago with the creative class of development of Corpus Christi downtown, it was always a focus on, I did it for my kids and my community, right? That was, I bring that energy home from. Now I understand it's much bigger than that. Like it's universal bringing it home, But I think that that's a part of, I think that's why God has grounded me here to a degree. And I don't know whether I'll ever be released necessarily from here, but I have to wander.
Right. Oh, it's so good to go and experience other places. I think that's what has really kind of created who I am. I love all people, and I love going into communities and meeting locals. And then I like running into strangers that are visiting from another state. We end up in another state together, right? So someone from California and I'm from Texas, we end up in New Mexico, that kind of thing. I love my home. And when I had this transition in my life with the loss of Chuck, everybody was like, are you going to move? Are you going to leave Corpus Christi? And I'm like, I really thought about it. I'm like, actually, no, I'm not going to leave. My friends are here. And 27 years worth of friendship, I can't just pick up and go and find that somewhere else. I mean, I guess I could. Like, I'm already talking about with Adam that I want to like move to South America at some point. I'll leave my friends, but I know it's not permanent, right? So I'm not going to leave and sell and be gone and not ever have these people in my life. I want them to always be in my life. And really, ultimately, like anything that I do, I want to make a positive impact on my friends, and I want to make a positive impact on the community that really has built this place for me that I enjoy. I love the water. I love being on the coast. I love the climate. I love the culture. The culture is so different than what I grew up with. I find it really beautiful and amazing.
Did you grow up in Houston?
I grew up in Katy, which is outside of Houston. And at the time, it wasn't part of Houston. It was just its own little rice town back in the 80s. And so I moved there when I was 76, graduated 88, left in 89, and was gone. And so that was just what I did. And I really didn't, I left because I felt I needed more. A lot of people stayed in that town, and so, which is fine. But I had to go, and I knew I would never go back. But I love Corpus.
Well, I really thought that was my direction of life, actually, was to leave and go to New York and to model, but I wasn't tall enough. I had grand delusions. But and I had the opportunity to go, but I ended up, I mean, it's almost like the same thing about the trip. It's like when it came time to go, I stayed home. I didn't stay home. I went to Texas A&M University in College Station, but that was home,
right?
Texas. And so now it's like, are you going to go? Like, that's honestly, that's what this trip, like when I got asked, are you going to, I don't know if it's safe for you to go on this trip, and at the end of the day, I was just like, I'm going to go. I have to go. I have to go. It's time for me to buck up and go do the thing you've been talking about doing since you were out of the house and ready to be an adult. This is what you've been talking about doing.
I think it's going to be amazing. I think you're going to just find another part of Aislinn that you have been waiting to find. It'll be a nice surprise for you, I think.
Please, God.
I know. It's going to happen. I'm telling you. I'm going to manifest it.
Okay. Give us the details about how we can get involved with the Ritz or anything that you want us to know about.
Well, we're going to be very busy over the next few years getting us in order to be able to do what we're going to do when we open the doors. So you can find us at ccritz.com. That's the website for the Ritz Theater. And you can find out there our next events. We're always going to be having fundraisers. I would say we will always be having fundraisers.
Of course.
And so people can volunteer. We're actually recruiting volunteers now. So if anybody wants to get involved with like greeting or being a part of our events, you're more than welcome to sign up and be involved. And we are taking donations. Any amount of money will help. We're working on grants. The community is such an intricate part of the theater. I have conversations with people that have never been to the theater, and then some that have been there and experienced it from like 1960s to 89 when it closed down. And I really love those stories. So if you have a story about the Ritz and you happen to hear me saying this now, please submit your story online at ccritz.com, because we're going to archive it. It's going to be a part of our history, and people want to know and hear these stories in our community. So this theater is not about me or our board. It's really about leaving a legacy. And when we're gone, that theater will be open and being available to our community. So I always call it the People's Theater.
It's really an amazing theater inside.
It's beautiful.
It's overwhelming at how that beauty became something that got just let go of, you know?
Yeah, well, that we had such a transition in Corpus, and really all cities did.
Yeah.
And so if you look at any historic theater, I would say really any of them have gone through a time of where they were kind of failing, if not shut down and if not scraped and taken away, like demolition, you know? But I feel that now we're having this resurgence about community centers and city centers, and this is one of the only
historic buildings.
It's a historic building, and it's one of the only ones left. And really, the Center Theater down the street is there, but I don't know if that's going to be rehabilitated.
The Center Theater is where we held the Dia de los Muertos event 2 years.
First time.
That was at the Center Theater. That's the last time I've been in that building. But the Center Theater was nowhere near as gorgeous as what the Ritz is. The Ritz is special.
Is very special. So if you've been to the Majestic Theater, that's really the way it will look, except on a smaller scale of how the Ritz will be.
One time I worked in ice cream for like a hot second. There was a little ice cream shop in Corpus Christi, kind of a homemade. They did these special bar things. I don't know. And they sent me off to Jacksonville, Florida. And I met all these people, and I met this woman that had revitalized a movie theater, same kind of concept. But of course they're now, they're a decade ahead of, or 15 years ahead of where we are. And part of the reason they were there was because one of their products that they had in there was ice cream. And so it was like all these people that sold ice cream, but then she had, and I think she must have gotten up and spoke at the conference because it's clicked into my brain that much. It must have been, but she was somebody that I kind of hung around with during the time that I was there. And I remember thinking like, gosh, it was during that time when I was beginning to understand that Corpus Christi, or that not beginning, but I had been a part of and like was interested in beginning to understand that Corpus Christi needed some really good, revitalization things going on down there. And
it's so pretty.
Yeah. It is.
Corpus is beautiful. We're one of only, I would say, 5 or 6 cities on the coast of the United States that have a marina that you get off a boat and walk into the downtown area. I mean, that's what we have to grow off of and really build off like what we have going on down there. It's great.
We have so much, and I even like the coastal breeze.
Yes.
The thing, I'm like, every time I hear us complain, like, when we end up complaining about the wind is when we're like trying to have a birthday party outside.
Things blow away.
Everything's blown away. And it's like, the wind, whatever. But over the years, I have become one of those people that never complains about the coastal breeze because it is, we're 5 to 10 degrees cooler down here than it is in other parts of Texas right now. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so thankful for our breeze. It's so nice.
Right now, once the sun goes down now, even though it's like 100 degrees, it's nice outside.
It is. Yeah.
The breeze is going, it's low 80s, and then that's just fine. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I never want to leave it.
I'm trying to figure that part out at this stage in my life, and I know that sounds strange because I've got like my home and the farm and all of that kind of stuff, but I have to figure out how to make it work for me now at this phase of life. And so I think that the timing of this trip, hopefully I'll have figured some things out, and also kind of spreading out to the world that like, I might need to add like a remote job to my life. I might need to add some other income for a little while to my life. So if anybody knows of anything that they think would be awesome for Aislinn to be involved in, you gave me a couple of ideas. And so trying to find, find myself, because the thing is that everything that's happening out here at the farm, the podcast, my online influencer stuff, all of it is not just a little increase. It's growing very fast, but is it growing fast enough for me to keep up with the fact that I don't have that extra income that I was helping to keep me on track and keep going? And so, but I will also tell you that I'm in a position with even finances and having a home and all of that many people dream to be in their entire life. So maybe I just need to chill out and just be okay and trust that I have made good decisions in my life and that those are going to lead to what I need to lead to. And that being here in Corpus Christi is a part of what God intended for me. And so, but I think I'll figure that out. I think that that's a part of this trip. Hopefully, I think that's where I am in this phase of my life, and being willing to be led by faith is really all I can do at this point.
Yeah, that's what you can do. And it's going to give you time to think and figure things out, write things down, and just really meditate it and focus.
Yeah.
Like, what's the best next step for Aislinn?
Exactly. So, okay, I drew a random question. You guys know we do that at the end of every dinner table talk, and I'm going to ask you first. So, okay, let's see what we ended up with here today. Which of your ancestors would you most like to meet?
Ooh, to meet, like that are gone, I would like to see again. I probably would like to see my grandmother. Actually, both of my grandmothers. They really taught me so much. My mom's mom raised 9 children, and then my dad's mom raised 2 boys, and she was single doing it. So I would love to sit with them and talk to them about the accomplishments I've made.
Yeah.
And they were so strong. I can't imagine raising 9 children, number one, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, over a span of time, these babies. And then along with that comes financial struggles, and to like know how that happened.
Here I am complaining about my stuff, and like, what do I have to complain about, really? You know?
Yeah. And then my grandmother, I called her grandma, and my mom's mom was Mima. But I would talk to my grandmother about just where and what I've done with my life. And I think back in her generation, we were expected to be more of like administrative and, be at home with our children and our families and to raise children. But she showed me something different, that she could work. She worked for Kelly Air Force Base for a long time because she was single, and she wanted to work. And so I really gained a lot of, I think, my strength from her, and then watching my mom, of course, which she learned from both of them. So I'd really love to sit with both of them again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of women in my life that I would like to sit with again. But my dad's dad died when my dad was 21. He had a heart attack. Actually had a heart attack in my dad's hands. And so that's a little bit of the history of our family. My dad's life changed very drastically. Speaking of not expecting that, and whatever maybe dreams or whatever he had, that all changed. My mom and dad were just brand new married when he passed. And then my grandmother, that was one of the strength women that I grew up with, had to find her own way, and married the grandfather that I grew up with. But I think his name was Jesse Jameson. And I think that my personal stream, my body type, the way I think, comes from my dad's family stream really strongly. And I think that I get this feeling. Jesse was the port director of Corpus Christi. And my dad said that he was very aggressive. It's probably why he had a heart attack, because he was very like kind of angry, intense, and just like, whatever. But I think that that's who I would want to meet. And I think that what would be interesting about it is that I'm great. I'm grand, and we've never met, and he's already seen the light, and to be able to like sit down with him now, and sometimes I feel like I'm already there, like I'm already having some conversations. I definitely feel like I have conversations with my grandmothers because I knew them. Right. So this one is interesting because I think that there's a lot of wounding there. I think that there's, and I think that some of that wounding is some of the wounding that I deal with, that has even, and so I don't know, there's just something about thinking that I never met him, and that I'd be curious to know like what he would tell me now as his granddaughter, because I wouldn't be his kid, I'd be his grandbaby that he never met. And now I'm going to cry about it because I think that it's such an interesting thing. I also have another really interesting family member that I never met. Was it his aunt? So my mom's dad, my mom was born in Maine. That's why we made that big trip across the country in 2019. It's because she was closing up some family inheritance stuff. And my mom's dad was born in Maine, and apparently he kind of ran the streets as a fairly young kid, because I think that the way his life turned out or whatever, I think his aunt maybe raised him. And apparently she was like a wrestler, like a female wrestler. And that would have been like in the 20s or 30s or whatever, like I don't know, 30s, I guess, way back then. And I have a piece of cloth that my grandmother, Lori, gave me that was like her cloth that she hung on to forever. And it's this like metallic cloth. I don't even know. It's amazing to me that it's still in any good condition, but apparently she had it. Maybe she had it when she was aging or whatever.
That's awesome.
But there's pictures of her like holding up like big old barbells and like interesting, like, so a wrestler. So if you think about the women that I've like come through in life, and the men for that matter that I've come through in life, it's been these like crazy, eccentric, interesting, people. And I think that I'm learning to just recognize the threads of me that still continue to carry the legacies of what they wanted. And that's probably why I want to meet Jesse, is because I think that I carry some legacy for him, and that has meant a lot to me. And so I need to remember those kinds of things when I'm really getting down on myself.
It's important
that those ancestors, those threads, they're watching me right now, and they're like, you got this.
Yeah,
you got this.
Totally.
So thank you so much. So much for coming and having dinner with me tonight. I can't tell you how much it meant to me to just be able to sit across the table from you and have an easygoing, private, but also public conversation at the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
You're
I
welcome.
love you.
I love you too. See you guys soon. I love you guys. You guys always know the drill. If you want to support the podcast, dinnertabletalks.com, right at the top where it says show notes, you can say support the podcast, throw a few bucks at me. I promise you that helps my life. And of course, if you're hearing this on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. Let's get that YouTube up to 1,000 likes so I can start monetizing that as well. And all of these things just help me continue to keep moving in the direction of doing what I think is the right thing for me to do today, and each day as I learn more about what the right thing for me to do is. Thanks, you guys. I'll see you soon.